Something wild is happening right now, and nobody's pretending anymore. Social media didn't just change how people communicate. It exposed who they truly are. Every tweet, every TikTok rant, every Instagram story time is a confession booth, and women are confessing everything. The mask isn't slipping. It's shattered. They're revealing behaviors that 20 years ago would have been unthinkable to admit publicly. Bragging about cheating, joking about manipulation, treating loyalty like an outdated trend. It's all out there, and they're proud of it. Scroll through your feed and you'll see it. Women openly posting about how men need to heal their trauma, pay for what the last guy did, and prove they're different. Thousands of comments cheer them on. Yes, queen, you deserve it. But what they're really saying is, you owe me for what someone else broke. And that's the new epidemic: emotional debt. Every failed relationship, every situationship, every one-night experiment leaves a mark. And that damage adds up. Years of chasing attention, confusing lust for love, validation for intimacy. It all becomes emotional credit card debt that someone has to pay off. Guess who they expect to pick up the bill? You, the man who didn't cause it. You, who's being tested for crimes committed by ghosts. You're not dating one woman, you're dating every heartbreak before you. It starts subtly. She'll talk about her exes too much. She'll say, I have trust issues. But what she really means is, I'm still bleeding, and you'll be the bandage. She'll demand reassurance, endless attention, proof you're not like them. And if you can't fix her pain fast enough, you become part of it. That's not partnership. That's emotional servitude. Social media has turned this dysfunction into a performance art. Every post about healing energy, toxic exes, and boundaries is just repackaged trauma with a filter on top. What used to be shameful is now trending. What used to be self-reflection is now self-branding. They call it empowerment, but it's exposure. Because every time they post, they reveal the same truth. They don't want healing, they want redemption without responsibility. They want men to fix damage they proudly collected. They want to be worshipped for their pain instead of working through it. And men are finally seeing it for what it is. They're realizing that behind every strong, independent woman post is often just a mountain of unresolved guilt, validation addiction, and emotional chaos disguised as self-love. They're learning that I don't need a man usually translates to I can't keep one. That men are trash really means I keep choosing the same kind of man. And that I'm still healing often means I'm not ready, but I want attention anyway. It's not hate. It's pattern recognition. The truth is out there now, in their own voices, in their own captions. Women have spent the last decade broadcasting their inner world to millions, and the world is finally paying attention. And what's being revealed is both fascinating and terrifying. A generation of women carrying emotional debt so deep, they mistake pain for power and shame for honesty. They can no longer hide their true nature, because they've chosen to livestream it. Here's what's happening now, and it's brutal. The illusion of innocence is gone. The filters, the soft lighting, the healing journey quotes, they can't hide the truth anymore. Because the moment these women start speaking unscripted, you see it. The bitterness, the blame, the quiet rage against accountability. You'll notice the same pattern everywhere. They talk about self-love, but it's just self-obsession. They say, I'm protecting my peace. But what they really mean is, I'm avoiding responsibility. They call it raising my standards. But it's really just revenge against rejection. Modern social media didn't create this behavior. It exposed it. When a woman says, he couldn't handle me, what she means is, he refused to tolerate my chaos. When she says, all my exes were narcissists, it's code for, they stopped playing the game when I lost control. Every viral confession is a glimpse into something rawer. A generation of women who were told their flaws were empowering, until those flaws became their identity. They aren't just posting. They're documenting the slow decay of accountability in real time. And here's the kicker, they don't even realize it. They think they're expressing strength, but what they're showing is emotional instability packaged as confidence. Watch the videos closely. The laughter is forced. The language is defensive. The eyes always flicker right before they say, "I'm the problem," and that's okay. That's not self-awareness. That's self-justification. They wear trauma like jewelry, something to display, not to heal. They weaponize their past as an excuse to mistreat the present. And men, they're waking up fast. They're realizing that dating today isn't about connection anymore. It's about damage management. Every new conversation starts with hidden landmines. Past abuse, unhealed resentment, unprocessed jealousy. You say one wrong thing, and suddenly you're the villain in a story that started before you arrived. This isn't bitterness. It's survival instinct. Men have learned to read the signals. The oversharing, the emotional volatility, the endless, "I've been through so much." Those aren't signs of depth. They're warnings. Here's the hard truth. A lot of modern women aren't dating to build anymore. They're dating to recover, and recovery isn't partnership. It's therapy with a man as the emotional punching bag. The irony? The same social media that destroyed their peace is now the mirror showing them why. You can fake filters. You can fake smiles. But you can't fake peace. And the women who lost it are telling on themselves every single day, one viral post at a time. Men are changing quietly, radically, and permanently. For decades, they were told to be patient, to understand her pain, to prove they're different. But after years of playing emotional janitors for broken relationships they didn't cause, men are done. They've stopped arguing. They've stopped trying to fix. They're simply walking away. And that silence terrifies women more than any insult ever could. Because for the first time in generations, men aren't reacting, they're observing. They watch the endless parade of self-victimization online, the late-night rants about men being trash, the posts demanding healing energy from the next guy. They see it all, and instead of replying, they scroll. They watch, they remember, and then they quietly make a decision. Not me. The modern man has learned something that every previous generation ignored, that empathy without boundaries turns into self-destruction. He's realized that compassion can't save someone who worships their pain, that loyalty doesn't mean signing up for chaos, that love without respect is just servitude dressed as romance. He's tired of auditioning for women who treat relationships like rehabilitation centers. He's done being compared to ghosts, exes, fantasies, trauma triggers. He's done explaining that his calm isn't coldness. It's exhaustion from decades of emotional warfare. You see it in his eyes when a woman starts listing her ex's crimes. He's not listening, he's calculating. He's mapping the pattern, recognizing the script, realizing he's next in line to be blamed. And instead of trying to prove her wrong, he smiles, pays the bill, and never calls again. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Because he's learned the most painful truth of all. You can't build peace with someone addicted to chaos. There's a quiet rebellion happening among men. Not loud, not dramatic, just brutally rational. They've started investing their energy elsewhere, into fitness, work, friends, passions. Not out of bitterness, but because they finally see how rare peace really is. They've realized that solitude isn't loneliness. It's detox. They're no longer seduced by the illusion of strong, independent women who crumble the moment they don't get attention. They're not falling for the Instagram philosophers preaching self-love while begging for validation in the comments. They've learned to recognize the tone. That subtle hostility when she says, "I don't need a man." That smirk when she jokes, "Men can't handle real women." It's not confidence. It's resentment, polished into performance. And men don't argue anymore. They just withdraw their attention, the most valuable currency in the modern world. Because attention is what feeds the system. The likes, the validation, the control, it all dies when men stop playing. And women can feel it. They're noticing that the DMs aren't as full. That the compliments don't flow like before. That the validation machine isn't giving them the same high. They're realizing the power shift. That men no longer crave access. They crave peace. That men no longer chase. They choose. And that's the twist nobody saw coming. When men stop chasing, the game collapses. Because the modern dating economy runs on male attention. Remove it and everything grinds to a halt. The thirst traps, the manipulation tactics, the men should do more speeches. They lose value without an audience. And now, the audience is gone. Men have learned to see through the filters, both digital and emotional. They see that healing often means hiding toxicity under pretty words. That boundaries often means walls built to control, not protect. That self-love sometimes means, I'll never change. It hurts to accept because men still want love. They still want connection, but not at the cost of their peace. They've learned that love without self-respect isn't love. It's a slow death. So they've evolved. They read books about psychology instead of chasing validation. They learn to cook, travel alone, invest their money. They build their lives instead of begging to be included in someone else's drama. They start noticing women differently, not for looks, but for emotional discipline. A calm woman is now rare. Accountability is rare. Kindness without hidden agendas, rarest of all. When men meet those women, they stay. Quietly, deliberately, with no games. But when they meet the others, the loud ones, the bitter ones, the ones who blame everyone but themselves, they simply vanish. No arguments, no closure, no fight, just absence. And that's what's breaking modern women more than heartbreak ever could. They can't manipulate silence. They can't gaslight distance. When a man stops reacting, he becomes unpredictable, and therefore uncontrollable. They can't hide their true nature anymore, not because men are smarter, but because men are finally paying attention. Every rant, every "if you can't handle me" post, every brag about chaos, it's all data. And modern men have become analysts of behavior. They don't need red pill forums to tell them what to see. They just look. They listen. And once you've seen behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. They've realized something powerful. The most dangerous thing a man can do in this world isn't yell back. It's walk away with clarity. No drama, no hate, just understanding. Because that's what really exposes the truth, not arguments, but absence. Absence reveals who needed the chaos more. And for many women today, it wasn't love they wanted. It was control. Now that control is gone. And the silence of men is deafening. Here's the part that's going to make a lot of people angry, but it's the truth men whisper when women aren't in the room. The modern woman isn't struggling because men changed. She's struggling because the game she built stopped working. For years, her power came from illusion. Filters, attention, and manipulation wrapped in the language of empowerment. But that power only worked as long as men kept believing in it. Now they don't. Men aren't intimidated by strong women. They're exhausted by broken ones pretending it's strength. They're tired of hearing, "Men can't handle me," because the truth is we just don't want to anymore. And that's the line that makes the internet explode. Because when men stop chasing, the whole system cracks. Validation collapses. Ego deflates. The mirror stops lying. Here's the harsh truth no one says out loud. Most women today don't want equality. They want leverage. They want freedom without responsibility. They want commitment without accountability. They want a man's loyalty but a single woman's lifestyle. They want to be adored like queens but contribute like tourists. And when men finally stop providing that illusion, when they stop paying the emotional bill, these women call it misogyny. But it's not hate. It's balance. It's reality catching up after decades of denial. Men have simply stopped worshiping dysfunction. They're no longer impressed by rebellion disguised as confidence or promiscuity labeled as empowerment. They've realized that peace is priceless, and modern dating doesn't offer peace, only performance. And that realization terrifies women. Because for the first time, they can't use shame to pull men back. They call it toxic masculinity when men refuse to be manipulated. They call it fragile ego when men demand standards. They call it fear of strong women when men simply say, "No, thank you." But the truth is not fear. It's freedom. Men are no longer afraid to lose women because they finally understand most of them were never theirs to begin with. They were addicted to attention, not connection. And when attention fades, the mask falls. That's why you're seeing the panic online. The endless "where have all the good men gone?" videos. The men don't court anymore laments. The "I can't find someone on my level" cries. Here's the answer they don't want to hear. The good men didn't disappear. They just stopped volunteering for emotional labor they didn't sign up for. They stopped fixing what others broke. They stopped believing that love means sacrifice without reciprocity. They're not ghosting. They're protecting themselves. They're not bitter. They're bored. Bored of manipulation. Bored of entitlement. Bored of pretending chaos is charm. And now the roles are reversing. Men are becoming selective. Men are the ones saying, "What do you bring to the table?" Men are the ones walking away from drama, silence, and games. And women, for the first time, are realizing that beauty doesn't buy what it used to. This is the new power dynamic. Men aren't scared of being alone. Women are terrified of being irrelevant. And they can't hide that fear anymore because they're posting it. Every men are weak post. Every, "I don't need anyone" video. Every, "Where are the real men" rant. It's just pain in disguise. Pain that comes from realizing the game has changed. Because men finally learned the secret. Peace is better than her. And once a man learns that, he never goes back.